I never expected to inherit 11 million. But a tragic accident changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My phone rang, and a strange name lit up the screen. Is this Mia? The voice crackled, shaky and unfamiliar. I have terrible news, your uncle. He's my breath hitched. I could barely hear the rest. Each word felt like a bullet striking my heart. Uncle Leo was the wild one. He dazzled at family reunions, with stories of adventures I could only dream of. He lived in a crumbling mansion, tucked away in the woods. The air was thick with mystery there, whispers of secrets like shadows dancing between the trees. He always said he carried his fortune hidden in places only he would know. But now he was gone. An accident, they said. A fall? A misstep on that staircase I could visualize perfectly in my mind. I shuddered at the thought, trembling hands covering my mouth. I never got the chance to tell him I loved him, to ask about those mysteries he teased. The lawyer's office smelled of dust and leather. As I sat there, feeling small and out of place, I could hardly focus on the words falling from his lips. The estate is valued at 11 million, but it comes with conditions. My heart raced. Conditions? My mind whirled. What could they be? He leaned in, his voice dropping. You must live in the mansion for a year. See it as your own. Confusion clouded my thoughts. Live in a house steeped in silence, filled with echoes of laughter long gone? What if I felt his presence? What if the shadows held more than just memories? I felt a chill creep up my spine. Standing before that house again, I could almost see Uncle Leo, his mischievous grin, urging me to unlock the secrets within. But was I brave enough? Or did I risk unearthing darkness instead? Then came the thought that tightened my chest. What if I found something else? Something that would change everything I thought I knew? What were the conditions I'd find in those walls? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The first night in the mansion was a cacophony of emotions: fear, longing, and a surreal sense of privilege. As I lay in the grand bedroom with peeling wallpaper and shadows entwining like fingers, the sounds of the house creaked and groaned. It felt alive, echoing the pulse of a life once vibrant and full of laughter. I could almost hear Uncle Leo's voice beckoning me to explore. With each tick of the ornate clock on the wall, I was reminded that I had a profound commitment to this place. Living here for a year felt like being tethered to the remnants of a past I never fully claimed. I reached for my phone, glancing at the screen with a desperate hope that somehow a message from Uncle Leo would materialize, as though he were suddenly alive again, sharing wisdom on how to navigate through the tangled emotions swirling inside me. Morning light spilled through the dusty windows, casting golden rays that illuminated the faded photographs lining the mantel. Their eyes, filled with mischief, comforted me like an old friend who promised to watch over me. Each picture seemed to tease a story, a fragment of Uncle Leo's adventures, buried in the depths of my memory. I seized the opportunity to delve into the house's labyrinthine corridors, each step resonating with the echoes of whispered secrets begging to be uncovered. I stumbled upon a study lined with bookshelves bending under the weight of countless tales. Among the worn volumes, one caught my eye: a leather-bound journal with yellowing pages. My heart raced as I opened it. His handwriting, sprawling and uneven, leapt off the page. His thoughts were raw and unfiltered. He wrote about love lost, regrets laid bare, and dreams that filled the silence. As the words unfolded, I felt a connection to him so visceral that I could almost hear him sighing beside me, sharing his fears and joys. But amidst the fragments of his soul, there were sketches of the mansion, hidden pathways, cryptic notations about the treasure of memories nestled within these very walls. My fingers trembled as I traced the ink with awe and trepidation. What did he mean? Treasure? The thought ignited a flame of curiosity within me, battling the growing darkness of uncertainty. Days turned into nights, and each morning I found myself waking with a flicker of excitement. What could I uncover today? To hold on to hope in this dusty enclave felt like a betrayal to the grief rattling within me. And yet, as I combed through forgotten boxes in the attic filled with relics of my uncle's adventures and tales long left untold, I felt the weight of my sadness begin to lift. Random acts of kindness began to sprinkle my days in the unlikeliest of forms. The local baker, Mrs. Thompson, who once knew Leo, would stop by with croissants and warmth, sharing stories that painted the mural of his life in vibrant hues. In those moments, I found a flicker of light, a reminder that I wasn't alone in navigating this maze of emotions. But my discoveries also unearthed darker shadows. Unsettling letters written in hurried script hinted at unresolved disputes and haunting fears he never shared with anyone. They spoke of a looming threat tied to the estate, an obligation that had drawn him into darkness. As I pieced together the fragments of whispers, an uneasy knot tightened in my stomach. What had he been protecting me from? What was lurking behind the mansion's peeling facade? On a particularly rainy evening, while sorting through more boxes, I discovered a small, ornate box hidden beneath a pile of ragged maps. Its latch was intricately designed, almost as though it were alive. With a deep breath, I opened it, revealing a collection of old keys, each one unique and somehow glowing with unspoken promise. What did they unlock? A surge of exhilaration coursed through me as hope intertwined with dread. But just as I let the anticipation swell within me, a loud crash echoed from downstairs. The energy shifted sharply, a crack in the universe reminding me that shadows lurked in corners I hadn't ventured. I rushed down the staircase, heart pounding, the forgotten key still warm in my hand. The air tingled and felt charged, as if something vast and electric lingered nearby. The living room lay in disarray, furniture overturned, memories shattered on the floor. And in the midst of it all, a figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette I thought I'd never see again. A figure resembling Uncle Leo, his own secrets cloaked in shadows, just as mine were. "Help me, Mia. You need to understand," he said, eyes wide with urgency, as my world spun on the precipice of a cliffhanger. Who was this man before me? The uncle I cherished, or a specter from the shadows of my fears? The truth hung heavily in the air, a question demanding to be answered, and the reality of my inheritance began to tangle even deeper with the mysteries of love and loss. The echoes of Uncle Leo's voice intertwined with the sound of my racing heartbeat, pulling me from the precipice of disbelief. Reality slipped, and I blinked hard, desperate to dispel the apparition before me. Was this a figment of my imagination, born from the restless nights spent in this mansion? "Mia," he urged again, his voice dampened by a sense of urgency that resonated deep within me. "You need to listen. They're coming for what's yours." My stomach churned at the implications of his words. Who was coming? And why? The room, still marked by chaos, felt like it was closing in around me. I had inherited a fortune, a legacy cloaked in both mystery and sadness. But I had yet to grasp the weight of that inheritance, a burden that now seemed to glow ominously in the shadows of the grand walls. I took a hesitant step forward, my fingers tightening around the warm key I had found moments before. "What do you mean, Uncle Leo? Who's coming? And how are you?" The question faded into the air, swallowed by the uncertainty that filled it. "I can't explain everything right now. They are listening, and they know about the keys," he whispered, glancing nervously over his shoulder as if the shadows themselves bore witness to our conversation. "You must take them and hide. Only when you understand what they unlock will you grasp the truth about this house." A chill raced up my spine, a primal instinct urging me to run, but instead, I found my feet stuck in place. "Hide? From whom? Uncle Leo, what happened? Please," my voice faltered, caught in the web of desperate yearning and urgency. His eyes held a timeless wisdom, yet they glimmered with a haunting sadness. "The past has its claws in this place. You need to be brave, Mia. You've always been so strong." He extended a hand toward me, and within him, I saw a flicker of hope that resembled the light I had glimpsed in the bakery's warmth. But just like that light, it seemed fragile, an ember barely surviving in the face of an all-encompassing darkness. Before I could reach out, the shadows beyond the room shifted, trailing like a whisper. There at the gates, he urged, every word laced with desperation. You have to trust yourself. The keys will reveal your destiny, but only if you open your heart to the truth. His form began to shimmer, a distortion of light and dark, and before I could comprehend what was happening, he vanished, leaving the room eerily quiet once more. Gripping the key tightly, I felt the cool metal scrape against my palm, a tether to the reality of my situation. The storm outside raged with renewed vigor, casting eerie silhouettes that danced across the walls. A restless wind swept through the window pane, rattling it against its frame, mirroring the turmoil within me. Gathering my resolve, I stepped cautiously into the living room's chaos. The furniture lay scattered like the pieces of a puzzle, waiting to reveal a completed picture. I started picking up remnants of my uncle's life, an overturned chess piece, a torn book whose pages whispered stories now lost, and with each fragment, the realization of my own powers began to awaken. It was daunting, yet invigorating to think that I alone could steer the course of this legacy. The floor creaked beneath me as I moved instinctively toward the front door, heart thundering in time with the rain hammering against the roof. But just as my hand reached the doorknob, a noise sliced through the air, an unmistakable rattle, a heavy footstep emerging from the shadows beyond the entrance. Open up, the voice barked. It was deep and menacing, sending ice-cold fear racing through my veins. We know you're in there, Mia. It's time to talk. I froze, glancing at the keys in my hand, each one now feeling like a lifeline in my grasp or a chain binding me to something I hadn't yet understood. It was the moment of decisions, to confront the danger at my door or to retreat into the hidden sanctum of the mansion, where secrets clung to the walls like persistent ivy. The weight of Uncle Leo's warning anchored me as I contemplated my next move. Each heartbeat felt like an eternity, and with the chill of uncertainty wrapping around me like a cloak, I knew I stood at a crossroads. No longer was this a mere inheritance of wealth. The stakes were entwined with my future and the essence of a legacy racing to be defined. With the future hanging precariously before me, I locked eyes with the door, steeling myself to make a choice that could change everything. And just as I prepared to turn the knob, a sharp sound echoed from elsewhere in the mansion, a frantic, muffled scream that cut through the heavy atmosphere, sending a chill of icy dread down my spine. This was just the beginning. I could sense it in the air. I was not only battling the shadows of the past, but I was also beginning to uncover depths of my own strength I had never imagined were there, igniting the pages of my own story with a determination that could either bind me or set me free. With a jolt, I spun around at the sound, the reality of my situation crashing down like the thunder outside. The scream echoed again, closer this time, haunting and shrill. Adrenaline surged through my veins, drowning out the fear momentarily as I fought for clarity amidst the chaos. What was happening? Was someone else trapped in this house? I hesitated at the door, my fingers gripping the cool metal tight enough to turn my knuckles white. The urgency of the moment forced me to weigh my options. Should I face the unknown danger lurking outside, or should I follow the horrifying sound reverberating within the walls? Driven by instinct, I took a step back toward the stairs that spiraled up to the second floor. The voice that had warned me now felt so distant, like a fleeting dream, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the answers to all my questions lay hidden above. With every thud of my heart, the idea resonated deeper. Perhaps this was what Uncle Leo meant by listening to my heart, and I had to unravel this mystery before it consumed me entirely. I snuck up the stairs, each step creaking ominously beneath me as the rain lashed furiously against the windows. The echoes of the scream faded momentarily, leaving behind a chilling silence that only amplified the pounding of my heart. I knew this house was a labyrinth of secrets, and just like the echoes, the answers could be lurking around any corner, waiting for me to uncover them. Reaching the landing, I paused, feeling the tug of unseen forces pulling me toward the door at the end of the hallway. Something inside me whispered that I had to go there. My fingers brushed the cold metal surface of the doorframe, and for a heartbeat, I closed my eyes. That if Uncle Leo was right, If there was a truth to unlock here, I had to find it, no matter how terrifying it may seem. With resolve anchoring me, I swung the door open, revealing a small, darkened room filled with dust-laden furniture draped in white sheets. The heavy silence pressed down on me as I stepped inside, the floorboards creaking beneath the weight of expectation. But I wasn't alone. The muted glow of a lamp flickered weakly in the far corner, revealing a figure hunched over a desk, frantically scribbling, "Mia." The person looked up, and my breath caught in my throat as I recognized Alina, my childhood neighbor and confidant. Her eyes were wide with panic, fear etched into her features. "You have to help me. It's happening all over again. The shadows, they're real. What are you doing here?" I whispered, stepping closer. Her presence sparked a mixture of relief and dread. If Alina was here, then the shadows weren't just figments of my imagination, they were manifesting into something far more sinister. "I came to warn you," she said, her hands trembling as she clutched a tattered envelope. "I've been piecing things together since Uncle Leo passed. I found this in the attic." She thrust it toward me, her voice quaking. "You need to see it. It has everything, the truth about the inheritance, about your uncle's accidents." "Accidents?" I felt the color drain from my face. "What do you mean? I don't understand." "Before he died, he wrote warnings about the key, about people who'd been watching him, tracking the legacy he left behind," Alina explained, her voice rising in urgency. "He was scared, Mia. I know how crazy this sounds, but you're in danger." A broken light bulb flickered overhead, illuminating fragments of hopeful recollections and whispered secrets held within these walls. But in tandem, a dread hung heavy, reluctant to leave. "And what if I'm destined to protect it?" I asked, turning the envelope over in my hands, fear gnawing at the edges of my courage. "What if they're coming for me for something even worse?" Alina stepped closer, her expression earnest. "We can figure this out, together. But we need to act now before it's too late. There are people who want the keys, Mia. We can't let them take what was meant for you." The weight of my legacy crashed over me like a wave, and I felt a flicker of hope surfacing beneath the fear. Maybe I could confront this threat, harness this energy stirring within me. But just as the resolve settled into my bones, the door creaked again, sending a wave of dread through me. "Who's there?" I called, though my voice trembled. "Mia, open up." A voice barked from beyond, deep and gruff, sending icy fingers of apprehension down my spine. "We know you're in there. Don't make us break it down." In that moment, panic surged anew, a rush that sent me to the window. The shadows outside twisted and danced, and I felt the oppressive weight of their watchful gaze. Whatever lay ahead wasn't merely an inheritance of wealth but a battle for my soul, a fight against mysterious forces that clawed at the edges of my sanity. "Alina, they're serious. We have to hide," I said urgently as realization dawned. If Uncle Leo had left me this legacy, then there had to be a way to protect it, a way to unlock the truth and uncover what had been buried so long ago. Together, we hastened to the back of the room, seeking refuge in the darkness, clutching the envelope as if it held the answers to everything. As the door shuddered under the weight of the approaching danger, I felt the earth shift, the very foundation of my life trembling beneath me. The shadows of the past were no longer just shadows, they had come alive, and they were hungry for what was mine. I couldn't let them take it. Not now, not ever. With courage ignited by fear and determination, I stood at the threshold between the past and an uncertain future, ready to confront whatever awaited beyond, my heart echoing with unresolved battles yet to come. The walls trembled as the pounding on the door intensified, each thud sounding more like a countdown than a warning. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to push the panic out of my mind, but it clung stubbornly to me like the dust motes swirling in the dim light. "Alina, what do we do?" My voice was barely a whisper, but in the oppressive silence that filled the room, it sounded loud enough to shatter the fragile tension between us. "We need to find the keys," she replied, her breath quickening. Uncle Leo wasn't just referring to physical keys. He wrote about something deeper, something tied to the inheritance. It's not only about money, it's about what that wealth represents. Power, control, We can't let it slip through our fingers. The urgency in her voice ignited a spark within me. I remembered the stories Uncle Leo had shared, tales woven with intrigue and unspoken dangers, the kind of stories that both thrilled and terrified me as a child. The attic, he always mentioned something hidden there. I murmured, my thoughts racing. We have to go back. If we can find whatever it is he left behind, we might have a chance. Are you sure? Alina's eyes darted toward the door, assessing our dwindling options. What if they're already in the house? My heart raced. The pounding was relentless now, sounding like a drum signaling an impending battle. But the thought of facing these unknown adversaries without any knowledge of what I was up against felt colder still. We don't have a choice, I said, determination flowing through me like a fierce current. We have to move. Alina nodded, and we both turned toward the far wall, digging through the layers of darkness that cloaked the room. I felt my fingers brush against surfaces that felt oddly familiar. Remnants of my childhood mingled with an unease I couldn't shake. Each second spent searching was a reminder of the danger that lingered outside. Just as I pressed against a bookshelf, a subtle gap revealed itself, and I froze, instinct screaming that this was no ordinary bookcase. I pushed with urgency, and it swung open, revealing a narrow staircase leading further into the house, obscured by shadows. Do you see that? Alina whispered, eyes wide with both fear and fascination. It's like something out of a storybook. That I hesitated for a moment, knowing that plunging deeper into the unknown could either mean salvation or demise. But escaping the pounding on the door would be worth whatever awaited below. This way, I beckoned, and we slipped into the darkness together, hearts pounding in sync. The narrow staircase led us into a cramped space beneath the house, the cold air closing in around us like a vice. As we crept downward, I could feel the weight of generations pressing down, as if the very foundation of the house was holding its breath. Finally, we reached the bottom of the stairs, the dim light from our phones illuminating a room filled with boxes stacked high, dust motes floating lazily through the stale air. He must have hidden something here, I said, more to reassure myself than anyone else. We started rummaging through the boxes, fingers dancing over faded letters and old photographs. Each artifact felt like a thread in a tapestry I was beginning to unravel. But the fear lingered, casting a long shadow in this makeshift sanctuary. Then I came across an old, ornate trunk, its surface worn but still regal. This looks important, I said, excitement tinged with apprehension. I attempted to lift the heavy lid, but it was locked tight. Alina, help me! We both pulled together, and after what felt like an eternity, it creaked open, revealing a collection of artifacts that glimmered under the flashlight's beam. Among them was a journal, worn and weathered, clearly Uncle Leosit's pages filled with his elegant script. Flipping it open, my eyes darted across the words and sketches. He had meticulously documented interactions, observations, and cryptic notes about the Watchers people that seemed to shadow his every move, tracking his inheritance with sinister intent. My pulse quickened as I found a passage that mentioned a particular key, one that opened not just locks but also the secrets of the past. Suddenly, a muted crash resonated through the floorboards above us, sending a tremor of panic through me. There inside, Alina gasped, pressing closer. Not yet. I needed to focus. We have to find that key, the one he mentioned. It has to be here. As I flipped through the pages, a photograph slipped out, fluttering to the ground. I reached down to pick it up and froze. My breath caught in my throat as I realized it was a photo of Uncle Leo with a woman I didn't recognize, a woman whose eyes mirrored my own. Who is she? Alina asked, glancing over my shoulder. Fear mingled with curiosity as I stared at it, the familiar ache of wonder twisting in my gut. That I have no idea, I stammered, but something deep inside me felt as though this woman held a piece of the puzzle that connected to my current reality in ways I could neither articulate nor understand. The crash above us became a series of thuds, and the air grew thick with urgency. I quickly shoved the photograph into my pocket, the weight of its significance pressing down hard. We have to go, I said, fear intermingling with an unexpected growl of resilience rising within me. No more hiding. We have to confront whatever is up there. Just then, a low, ominous voice echoed from the main floor, a sound that sent chills cascading down my spine. "Mia, we know you're down there. You can't escape your destiny." I shared a terrified look with Alina, and in that moment, I understood this was no longer just about an inheritance. It was a fight for my very identity, and the answers were closer than I'd ever imagined. But as we climbed back up the stairs, marching toward the unknown, the lingering question resonated in my mind. Had I inherited boundless wealth, or had I unwittingly become a pawn in a much darker game? As the door swung open, the confrontation loomed ahead, and I steeled myself for whatever awaited me beyond the threshold, ready to embrace the storm. The light from the main floor spilled into the cramped space we had temporarily claimed as a refuge, casting long shadows that stretched toward us like claws. The air was thick, laden with the scent of old wood and musty papers, but it was the weight of dread that pressed down hardest as we steeled ourselves for what lay ahead. "Mia." The voice called again, reverberating through the house. A familiar edge of desperation tinged its tone, one that made my stomach churn. It was my father, his frantic insistence echoing in the silence. "We know you're down there. Come out now and we can talk." I exchanged glances with Alina, who swallowed hard, her eyes wide with hesitation. "What do we do?" she whispered, vulnerability slipping through her brave facade. "Stay quiet for a moment," I suggested, trying to think through the chaos that clouded my mind. The notion of facing my father felt like a tidal wave crashing over me. I had spent years trying to break free from his influence, the suffocating depths of his control. But I had also craved his approval, something that had always managed to slip through my fingers like sand and the frantic beats of our silence. I turned my focus back to the journal in my hands. "We need to find that key," I said, urgency imbuing my voice. He wrote about it for a reason with renewed determination. I rummaged through the trunk once more, each item I touched stirring memories of Uncle Leo, his laughter, the way his eyes twinkled with mischief when he recounted his audacious escapades. He had often warned me about the shadows lurking in my father's world. It was a domain where love entangled with power, and loyalty was earned with a price. The moment was short-lived as the ominous thuds returned, growing louder, reverberating through the very walls of the house. "Mia, Alina, I'm coming in." My father's voice was now laced with something more sinister, a determination that coaxed the dread creeping into my bones. "We've got to hurry," I urged, flipping frantically through Uncle Leo's journal for the reference to the key. A small scrap of paper drifted from between the pages and landed softly in my lap, sending hope sparking through my veins. I picked it up, my heart racing. The diagram depicted a small, intricate symbol, joined by a series of numbers. A map, perhaps, to something vital that we can't leave without knowing what this means, I said hurriedly, shoving the paper into my pocket alongside the photograph of the woman. Alina nodded, her expression hardening with newfound resolve. A crash echoed above us, and we froze. The door swung open, revealing a figure blocking the light. My father's silhouette mercilessly outlining the entrance with authority. "I won't let you ruin this family," he called, seething with anger. "Enough hiding. It's time to face the truth." With each word, I felt the grip of my father's manipulations tightening, toxic tendrils wrapping around the reality I had once known. He stepped forward, his eyes scanning the dimly lit room, and I realized that escaping his control wouldn't just be a matter of revealing hidden truths. It would require an outright fight. "Mia," he shouted, his voice now brittle with a mix of anger and desperation. "You only see part of what's happening. There's so much at stake. No, you don't get to decide that for me anymore." I felt the warmth of courage rise, fueled by years of frustration boiling over. "I'm not a pawn in your game." Alina grabbed my wrist, grounding me in the moment while the turmoil above us settled into a tense silence. "Let's go," she urged softly, a flicker of hope glimmering in her eyes. "Right. To the attic." I nodded resolutely, snapping the journal shut with renewed purpose. "There's something there, part of this inheritance that we need to confront. Whatever Uncle Leo left behind might hold the answers." We ascended the narrow staircase and felt the chill of the air enclosing us, compressing time and space into a cocoon, a shared mission binding us together. Each step echoed, a rhythmic reminder of the gravity of what lay ahead, every heartbeat resonating with the knowledge that we were moving closer to the confrontation that awaited. Lauded with both peril and potential as we emerged into the light of the main floor, the chaos around us crystallized into a confrontation. My father stood poised, rage and vulnerability colliding in his eyes. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," he barked, but I could sense the crack in his voice, the fear lurking beneath the anger that I am learning. I said, my voice steady and unwavering, "But I can't do this alone, and I refuse to be a part of your lies anymore." Just then, a crash rang out again, this time from outdoors, drawing all our attention. The sound of shuffling feet and faint grumbles punctuated the swirling tension. "We can't stay here," Alina insisted, tugging at my sleeve, her face pale against the backdrop of the chaos unfolding. "Mia," my father pressed, urgency spilling into his voice. "This isn't what you think. I can protect you." Just listen. Before he could finish, I felt a warm rush of bravery surge through me, fortified by the resolve to reclaim my identity from the twisting labyrinth of my family. I raised a hand dismissively, a gesture that stopped him in his tracks, and stepped forward. "Enough," I shouted. "You wanted power, but this isn't just about you anymore. This is my life, and I'm going to fight for its truth." In that moment, something in my father's expression shifted, a flicker of realization or perhaps regret, fleeting but profound. But before I could grasp what it meant, the door splintered open, revealing a group standing clad in darkness just beyond the threshold. "Mia," one voice echoed, familiar yet haunting. "I think it's time we had a family reunion." The blood drained from my face as recognition washed over me, a tidal wave of shock sweeping through the room. My heart pounded in response, foreboding coiling tightly in my gut as I faced the reality of confronting not just my father's secrets, but potential adversaries from my past, all colliding into a singular, irrevocable moment poised to change everything. The air crackled with tension as the shadowy figures loomed in the doorway, their intentions obscured by a veil of uncertainty. My father's momentary hesitation shifted to a fierce determination, his presence now a barricade between me and the encroaching figures. "Mia, get back," he shouted, a protective instinct flaring up like a shield around him. But I stood rooted to the spot, my heart battering against my ribcage, fighting to break free from its confines. There were 5 of them, their faces shrouded in darkness except for the ominous glint of their eyes, banded together by shared allegiance or shared malice. I could feel Alina's hand tighten around mine, both of us caught between our desire for the truth and the palpable danger that threatened to envelop us. "Mia," one of them called again, stepping forward. His voice was reminiscent of an old friend, yet marred by an unsettling undertone. "You don't remember me, do you? It's been a long time, but the past doesn't fade easily. You have a legacy to consider." A jolt of recognition struck through me, worsened by a surge of confusion. I looked to my father. "Who are they?" I demanded, blood rushing in my ears. "What do they want?" His jaw clenched, the lines of his face deepening with worry. "They're not here for you," he asserted, though there was a trace of doubt in his voice. "Not here for me?" I scoffed, bitterness rising like bile. "Then who exactly? Because I didn't ask for any of this." "Your inheritance," another figure chimed in, stepping into the light just enough for me to see the sharp angles of his face. The faintest trace of a smile played at the corner of his lips. "It's more than money, Mia. It's about power. And that power rightfully belongs to us." My mind raced as I parsed their words. I could feel the walls of my reality begin to crack under the pressure of what they were insinuating. "What do you want from me?" I asked, but my question hung in the air, instilling an uncomfortable silence that felt heavy and suffocating. "Let's just say," the well-dressed man replied, fixing his gaze on my father, "certain obligations still need to be fulfilled. And it appears that little Mia here is the KEYNO. My father growled, stepping slightly forward, the fury of a wounded beast radiating from him. "You will not lay a hand on her, not while I breathe." Alina's grip was strong, her eyes darting between us and the cloaked figures. "We need to get out of here," she whispered urgently, Yet I felt paralyzed by the unfolding revelation. Mia. The same man continued, brushing off my father's presence as if it were mere irritation. Join us, and we can offer you a place in our world. You have no idea what's waiting for you, the vast expanse of possibilities, the legacy you could belong to. A legacy. The word echoed like a ghost in my mind. It had always been a double-edged sword, binding me to my father while shackling my very essence. But the thought of stepping into the darkness of a family legacy I barely understood sent a wave of panic coursing through me, driving back the flickers of hope I fought to hold on to. Forget it, I yelled, the courage swelling within me one more time. I don't want anything to do with you or whatever twisted game of power you're playing. I'm tired of being pawed about like some trophy. The man's expression hardened for a moment, irritation flaring up. Be careful, Mia. Denying your true identity can come at a price. And if you turn your back on your blood, there may be consequences you're not prepared to face. Those words hung like a weight over my chest, igniting a spark of fear that left an icy knot in my stomach. I could feel my father's desperation coursing through me. I was standing on a precipice, poised between two worlds, the familial ties I had loathed and the dread of endless uncertainty. Alina, sensing the chaos around us, broke the tension. We need to get out and fast, she urged, edging toward the back exit. But my mind spun with the tension that had taken hold of me as if reading my thoughts. One of the figures shook his head, an unsettling smile spreading across his face. You'll find the truth is always waiting, Mia. There are things about Uncle Leo that could change everything. Isn't that right, Father? With those words, a shudder raced through the room. Alina's eyes widened, confusion etched into her features, and suddenly what felt like a growing chasm of understanding opened beneath me. What do you mean? I asked, my voice wavering ever so slightly. But before he could respond, a sudden loud crash erupted from outside, and the sound of sirens pierced through the air, a tidal wave of chaos poised to slice through the darkness encompassing us. Mia! My father shouted, urgency spilling from his lips. We need to go now. I turned to Alina, but in that split second we were thrust into the tumult. The figures outside scattered a quicksilver of moving shadows, and my heart raced as I took in the impending confrontation. Then I heard Ida whisper of truth woven through the night air. Mia, it's not just about money. There are family secrets buried deep that can shatter your whole world. Ripped from the moment, I felt time slow as I locked eyes with the familiar figure standing at the threshold. Confusion morphed into horror as recognition blossomed, sending shivers down my spine while the world around me teetered on the brink of chaos. Your uncle was never who you thought he was, the voice said. We'll be waiting for you to uncover the truth before it's too late. And as the adrenaline surged and the sirens drew closer, my heart sank, the weight of impending revelations heavy on my chest, the cliff of uncertainty yawning beneath me. A cacophony of footsteps echoed through the narrow alley as panic clawed at my insides. I turned to see my father hastily ushering Alina and me toward the rear exit, the figures slipping back into the shadows like phantoms retreating from the light. Keep moving, he barked, his voice tense with urgency and something else, fear. Each step felt like a battle against the rising tide of disbelief swirling in my mind. My Uncle Leo, the lurking danger, the hidden secrets. Questions ricocheted in my thoughts, each new revelation making it harder to breathe. Why had I never learned the truth before? What was it that my father was desperate to conceal? Alina stumbled slightly behind me, her face pale, eyes wide with the haunting images of the figures still burning in her mind. What the hell just happened? She whispered, her voice trembling. I could only shake my head, equally lost as we burst through the door into the cool night air. A flicker of hope ignited in my chest. The sirens had grown deafening, and the flashing blue and red lights illuminated the once dark alley, transforming it into a scene drenched in surreal chaos. But still, as we sprinted away, the shadows felt alive, drowning our steps in layers of uncertainty. Approaching the street, I caught a glimpse of the waiting police cars, and the thrumming of an impending storm danced in my chest. We can't go that way, I urged, but my father had moved into action, sweeping up Alina and guiding her toward a narrow side street away from the cops. Mia, Stick close, he commanded, and for a split second, his words grounded me as we hurried into the darkened street. I clutched Alina's hand tightly. What do you think they meant about Uncle Leo? I finally managed to spill out, my heart pounding furious rhythms against my ribcage. What could they possibly know that we don't? I don't know, she hastily replied, glancing around us. But whatever it is, it can't be good. We need to figure this out quickly. Mia, my father's urgent voice broke through as we turned into another alleyway, the weight of his concern adding pressure to every frantic beat of my heart. You don't have to carry this burden alone. We'll face whatever it is together. Together, I parroted, the word feeling like an echo of a promise too grand to believe. But the certainty I found in his eyes bolstered my resolve as we stumbled deeper into the unfolding night. We found ourselves near an abandoned warehouse, its walls shrouded in ivy, a faded reminder of something once vibrant. My father crouched behind a dumpster, peering out into the street, while Alina and I huddled close, breaths mingling in the cool night air. What do we do now? Alina asked, glancing between the two of us. Before I could respond, my father shifted slightly. We wait. For what felt like hours, we sat there, tension thick as shadows spiraled around us. I could feel the grim reality pressing down, pulling me into a whirlpool of dread. My mind raced with the mystery of Uncle Leo, the questions unanswered, the implications growing like weeds in my thoughts. As the sirens faded into the distance, the silence became almost a living thing. We can't go home, can we? I murmured, the truth of it settling heavily in my chest. They'll come for us. Those people, I won't let them hurt you, my father replied resolutely, his voice softening as he turned to me. I promise. But the certainty in his words began to crack, and I noticed how the lines of worry deepened on his face. I could feel it. Something dark, lurking at the periphery of our reality, ready to engulf us whole. It was in that moment I felt a flutter of optimism blended with despair, an impossible dichotomy etched into my soul. Then, quietly, I asked, what if we never find out the truth? The fear in my throat threatened to spill the very foundation of my being. What if Uncle Leo was involved in something dark? My father's gaze turned distant, as if the weight of our family legacy loomed above him yet again. We will, Mia. But we need to stay together, no matter how hard it gets. Just then, from the dim light touching the alley, a figure appeared at the entrance, blending with the shadows as if summoned by the very remnants of our anxiety. I strained my eyes, my heart racing with fear, and then, in an instant, recognition struck like lightning. Leo, I uttered, my voice faltering at the edges. Hello, Mia, he said, a smirk unveiling something both terrifying and intoxicating in the dim light. Why are you here? My heart pounded, the weight of his presence hitting me harder than I could have ever anticipated. A family reunion, he declared, almost too cheerfully, the darkness in his eyes flickering. They have some questions you'll want to answer. And as hope shattered into 1,000 pieces around me, the truth loomed larger than ever, a moody specter of revelations waiting to crush whatever fragile sanity I had left. The alley fell into a chilling silence, echoing with the heavy weight of Leo's words. There was a twisted sense of relief mixed with the horror of his presence. Every instinct screamed at me to turn and run, but curiosity clawed at me, tethering me to the ground as if my feet had been sealed in concrete. Uncle Leo was not just a distant family member. He held the key to truths long buried. We don't need to talk to you. I shot back, trying to feign strength, but the tremor in my voice betrayed me. Alina pressed her body against mine, her eyes wide with terror. But you see, my dear Mia, the world isn't always what it seems, Leo replied, a dark amusement painting his features. We all have our secrets, don't we? He took a step forward, the shadows coiling around him like a cloak. And yours are worth a lot more than you can imagine. My father stepped forward protectively, fists clenching at his sides. Leave her alone, Leo. I won't let you manipulate her like you did with me. Manipulation? Is that what you call it? Leo countered, tilting his head slyly. I prefer to think of it as merely revealing the hidden layers beneath a family's facade. The only layers you're revealing lead to ruin, my father replied, his voice growing more resolute. But I could sense the doubt creeping into his heart. The cracks in his armor were becoming the foundation for my own fears. What do you want? I finally asked, the question stumbling out of my mouth before my heart could catch up. I felt an overwhelming sense of loss, as if this confrontation was spiraling us deeper into an abyss from which we might never return. I want to offer you a chance to understand your inheritance, dear niece. The truth that you are blissfully ignorant of. It revolves around this little accident mentioned in your title. Does it not? Leo waved his hand dismissively, as if summoning an apparition of our family's troubled past. Shut up, I shouted, the words escaping like steam from a boiling pot. You think this is a game? You think you can just waltz in here and control our lives? I can help you, Mia. Your so-called inheritance isn't just money. It's a web of connections, and he paused, taking a deliberate step closer. It might even be the key to getting your father out of the mess he's created. Enough, my father barked, his authority somewhat undermined by the trembling in his knees. Mia, don't listen to him. But my thoughts were spiraling, weaving between horrified admiration for Leo's twisted brilliance and the haunting possibility that there was truth hidden in his offer. The uncertainty gnawed at me, establishing roots in places I didn't want to explore. Considering how you both seem to be cornered, Leo continued, an insidious smile curling his lips, this connection could save you from a fall. Or it could drag you further into darkness. It's your choice. What are you talking about? Alina chimed in, her voice wavering but laced with stubborn curiosity. You think you can sway us with your words? It's not just words, my dear. It's a destiny. Leo's eyes glinted with an unsettling mixture of excitement and malice. Mia, you need to understand how your family operates. The money has strings attached. You inherited more than you bargained for. What does that even mean? I asked, desperate for clarity but terrified of what the answer might bring. Leo stepped back then, the shadows receding slightly. You have to choose, Mia. Will you risk it all for the truth or live blissfully ignorant among the ruins of your family's legacy? In that moment, the choice seemed impossibly heavy. My chest felt tight with the weight of potential futures colliding in a quantum dance of improbability. I looked to my father, the only anchor I had to balance my wavering thoughts. But even he seemed lost, his face a map of turmoil. And if we refuse? I asked, the question hanging in the thick air like an uninvited guest. Refusal has its consequences, Leo said simply, his tone taking on a sinister quality. After all, some doors, once closed, may never open again. With that, he turned and began to blend back into the shadows, leaving a chilling reminder of his presence echoing in the silence that followed. My heart raced, every intake of breath laced with fear and uncertainty. Mia, my father said, his gaze fixed firmly on me, grounding me. We need to decide, and we need to do it now. But the moment stretched long, rippling with implications and buried secrets. All I could hear was my heartbeat thrumming in my ears, an uncertain rhythm of choices yet to be made. Then, just as doubt began to settle in like a comfortable sweater, a distant siren suddenly pierced through the still night. The chaos of the past few hours weighed heavily on my shoulders, leaving me breathless at the precipice of my decision. Mia, listen. My father pulled me closer, urgency igniting his voice. Whatever you choose, just know I am here with you. But before I could respond, another figure emerged at the opposite end of the alley, silhouetted against the dim light. My heart plummeted as recognition washed over me. It was someone I never expected to see in a moment like this. Grace, my estranged mother, stepping back into my life like a ghost from the past. And with her arrival came new questions, old wounds, and a tangled web of connections even I couldn't foresee. Everything felt uncertain, and my heart sank into the dark waters of an unknown future that now seemed to swirl perilously close. The heavy weight of unresolved emotions filled the narrow alley as I stood, caught in a turbulent storm of feelings. Memories danced at the edge of my mind, years of estrangement from my mother, a ghost now made flesh. The world felt surreal, as if time had twisted back on itself, forcing me to confront the very relationship I had long buried and yearned to reclaim. Grace, my voice trembled, a fragile thread woven amidst the chaos. She looked different, older, perhaps, the lines on her face telling stories of pain and regret that we had never had the chance to share. Her eyes met mine, a mirror of uncertainty reflecting the silent echoes of our lost years. Mia, she breathed, stepping forward tentatively, as if approaching a wounded animal. I didn't know where else to go. Her presence felt like a punch to the gut, a mix of longing and resentment battling for dominance. Memories swirled in a dizzying dance. The absence of her warmth, the silence that followed her departure. Yet within me also lay the yearning for a relationship that had never had a chance to blossom. Why now? I stammered, my heart racing. After everything. Because I heard, she replied, her voice strained, urgency spilling over my walls. I know what's happening. About your uncle's inheritance, I've been following the news, and I had to warn you. Your father is in danger. Danger? I could barely process the words. The world around me seemed to morph as she spoke, twisting reality into new shapes I struggled to grasp. What do you mean? Leo isn't who you think he is, Mia. He's dangerous, and he has manipulation down to an art. The legacy he speaks of, it's a facade. He's entangled in a world you don't want to be a part of, she said, her voice a rushed whisper that hung in the air like smoke. Why didn't you tell me? You could have reached out. I felt the anger boil beneath the surface, a mixture of hurt and confusion driven by years of her absence. I thought it was for the best, she murmured, guilt palpable in her tone. But I was wrong. I should have protected you. The intensity of our emotions hung in the air like a storm cloud, pressing down on us. My father glanced between Grace and me, the tension palpable as silence swallowed the space around us. Two worlds collided before me. The mother who had left and the father who had tried to shield me. I could feel the strands of my identity fraying, even as I desperately fought to weave them back together. What are you saying? I finally asked, forcing myself to focus. Are you saying we can just ignore Leo and go back to being a family? No, she exclaimed, urgency rising in her voice, and for a moment, I glimpsed the fierce protector beneath the broken woman. You have to understand, the choices ahead will change everything. You are no longer just a child caught in webs of family drama. You have inherited a legacy intertwined with danger and power. You must confront what Leo is hiding. A shiver trailed down my spine, and I felt the familiar prick of anxiety clawing at the edges of my resolve. These were not just words. They were a challenge to step into the truth, a truth that could shatter everything I believed. What truth? She gestured for me to follow her further into the light spilling from a far-off street lamp, and though every instinct screamed to stall, I found myself stepping closer to the unknown. Not here, she whispered, urgency pressing down on her words. We can't talk in the open. They may already be after you. As I fought against the tidal wave of questions crashing against my mind, the sound of approaching sirens grew louder, signaling an impending confrontation we were not ready for. Mia, my father urged, his voice barely a whisper above the cacophony. Do we trust her? I glanced at Grace, my heart fighting against the familiar ache of anger mixed with an insatiable need for understanding. If we don't, we risk losing more than just us, I replied, a newfound determination brewing in my chest, igniting the passions I needed to confront whatever awaited me. Together then, Alina chimed in, her voice steady, the support radiating in her words. We weren't facing this alone. With a deep breath, I turned back to Grace, whose torn expression mirrored my own swirling thoughts. Okay, I said, the decision hanging in the balance. But you have to tell us everything. As we hurried away from the chaotic storm breathing down our necks, weaving towards the truths buried within our family history, the shadows began to shift. They were alive with the echoes of the past, the love and the desperation, the laughter and the betrayal. This was a battleground of choices, and I felt the oppressive weight of our legacy choking the air around us. Mia, Grace said, her voice dropping low, a quiet intensity emerging. There's something you need to know about your uncle, about what really happened that night. And as her words unfolded, layers of complexity began to unfurl surrounding our fractured lineage. Each confession bore the weight of the past, fragments of forgotten truths that promised to collide with the fabric of our present. The few blocks walking felt eternal as we poured into the storm of unanswered questions and buried secrets. Your uncle was involved in something far beyond our family, tied to people who want to control what you now hold, she continued, her gaze locking onto mine. He wasn't killed by accident. This is all part of a greater force at play. They'll come for you because of the wealth you now possess, the legacy meant to control you. My pulse quickened as a barrage of disjointed images flashed through my mind, the warmth of love clashing with the chill of despair. What do we do? I asked, the weight of my inheritance spiraling out of control, interlaced with fear of the trajectory it could take. Face it, Grace answered instantly, her resolve sparking something deep within me. Confront your uncle's legacy and demand the truth. You have the power to forge your own path, but first, you must stand firm against what wants to chain you down. Just then, the atmosphere quivered, sirens faded in and out, blurring against the backdrop of streetlights and shadows. My heart echoed the intensity of the moment, realizing this was more than just a family feud. It was a reckoning, a chance to break the patterns that had confined me for all these years. I glanced around, the faces of my past flickering in my mind with sharp clarity. Moving forward didn't just mean confronting the shadows. It meant embracing the strength I had uncovered in myself, nourishing a truth that transcended bloodlines. Mia, my father said, squeezing my shoulder gently, grounding me further. No matter the outcome, remember one thing: your decisions shape your legacy now. With a fierce determination igniting within me, I decided then and there that I would not allow fear to write my narrative any longer. I was more than an inheritance. I was a testament to resilience, choice, and the unyielding power of love. As we moved forward, together, enveloped by uncertainty yet buoyed by hope, I felt it deep within me, makings of a legacy built not on secrets, but on truth, connection, and the love sworn to protect through every storm. And as the shadows lingered on the edges of the street, waiting for a chance to ensnare me, I bravely moved towards the dawn, ready to claim my story and to face whatever lay ahead, one heartbeat at a time. In that moment, I understood profoundly. I was not the sum of what I inherited, but the architect of what I would become. In this wild world of mysteries and legacies, my heart held a truth far more powerful than any darkness that sought to define me. The path ahead was daunting, yet with the collective strength of love and determination guiding me, I whispered softly to the night, ready for whatever awaited with renewed vigor. I am ready.